All right, welcome back, Do Hard Things Nation, friends, citizens, to another episode of the Do Hard Things Nation podcast, where we have great discussions with engaging guests on a variety of high-performance topics. And today's guest, I'm honored to have special guest Mark Willis with us. We're going to talk about the topic of finances. As you know, HARD is an acronym, and one of the four critical components of that acronym is our affluence and wealth, and we're going to talk about what Mark does, how he helps people generate wealth, and wealth ultimately gives us freedom. But before we get into today's conversation, just real quick, make sure you smash that subscribe button so you're notified of future episodes. Leave us a review on Apple iTunes. They go a long way for us to expand the Do Hard Things Nation. And if you gained a nugget of wisdom from this that's helpful to someone else, take a screenshot of this and share it. There's so much competing interest of like entertainment out there that this knowledge here could fundamentally transform someone's life. So screenshot it, tag someone, let Mark know what you thought of the episode. Let me know what you thought of the episode, and because we'd love to hear it. This episode is sponsored by DHT Coaching and Consulting, LLC, which is founded by yours truly, where we do group coaching, workshops. I offer the Forge Goal Crushing Mastermind. Looking for speaking engagements, and we're starting to host running events and things like that. So if you're interested in that, go to jteagues.com or dohardthingsnation.com. We also have apparel. So if you want some Do Hard Things apparel, we're rolling out new designs every week. Show the world that you do hard things. It's hard to slack when you're wearing something that says "Do Hard Things" or "Goal Crusher" or "Burn the Ships" or any one of those motivational sayings. So, all right, well. Let me introduce Mark Willis, CFP, with Lake Growth. Mark Willis is a man on a mission to help you think differently about your money, your economy, and your future. After graduating with 6 figures of student loan debt, discovering a way to turn his debt into real wealth, as he watched everyone lose their retirement savings and home equity in 2008, he knew that he needed to find a more predictable way to meet his financial objectives and those of his clients. Mark is a certified financial planner, a 3-time #1 best-selling author, the owner of Lake Growth Financial Services, a financial firm in Chicago, Illinois, and co-host of the Not Your Average Financial podcast. Over the years, he has helped hundreds of his clients take back control of their financial future and build their businesses with proven, tax-efficient financial solutions unknown to most financial gurus. He's become known as Not Your Average Financial Planner. So thanks, Mark, for being here. Tell us a little bit more about yourself, maybe something I may have missed in your intro.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you, Jay. And I've been really appreciating the motto of doing hard things and embracing the suck, like one of your recent episodes. And while it doesn't sound fun in the short run, what I appreciate about it is it's helping us all think long range, which is something not many of us do, including myself as a young adult. I got all the T-shirts that you could possibly get for college and all the debt that comes along with it, too. My experience with money started, really with plowing deeper and deeper and deeper into an ever increasing pit known as student loan debt and not really having much of a plan to get out. And it was in the midst of all that I had to come up with some strategies to just stay sane in a pretty insane time of my life when it seemed sort of hopeless. And it seemed like the balance of that debt was growing no matter how much money I threw at it.
Yeah, the student loan debt that's been in the news recently because of policy. We have people on both sides of the aisle. It's a very visceral topic, and but ultimately, it's a challenge for our society. And no matter what side of the aisle you're on, there's probably it is a problem, and it is holding people down. And I'd love to kind of get your take on that. Could you walk us through, I guess, when you went to college and you chose to go down, like what was your thought process when you selected the program? Just walk us through the before, during, and after of that aspect of your life.
Well, when you're my age, when I was a kid going to college, you didn't really understand what you were doing. I just remember sitting in a dirty hotel room next to the campus, just trying to get my papers signed and making commitments with my future self, not really present or able to make a vote on that. My present self was happy to take the money, and boy, I would love to spend it on whatever I could buy on campus or off, but my future self would have been screaming, "Don't do it. It's going to take away years of your life." You're going to have two women in your life when you graduate. You're going to have your beautiful wife, and you're going to have Sally Mae. Both of them are going to be in your life. One of them you're going to want to get out of your life as fast as possible. And that's exactly what happened. So I think many students, at least myself, I'll include in here, are thinking only about the instant gratification of getting it. Just so glad to be in a college, right? And the cost of college has skyrocketed so much that it's actually doubled our inflation, even when inflation was low. And just think what's going to happen now that it's free. Nothing is more expensive than when it's made free, right?
Yeah.
So the idea of having short-term thinking is what causes pain. That's true whether you're eating potato chips and ice cream or whether you're getting into six figures of student loan debt like I was. It's the short-term thinking that oftentimes causes us problems down the long uh, down the down the road. In fact, there's a great Simpsons clip here, Jay, where Homer is drinking some sort of nasty looking concoction, and Marge comes up to him and she asks him what's in the bottle, and he's like, "Oh yeah, it's mayonnaise and vodka or something terrible like that." And she's like, "Oh man, that sounds terrible. What about future Homer?" And Homer says, "Huh, future Homer sucks to be that guy." And that's sort of the way most of us that live our financial life. We chase the rate of return. We get the big credit card. We get it 0% interest teaser rates on our HELOCs, and we get the margin loan on our brokerage account to invest in some meme stock, AMC and GameStop and so forth. But we don't know what game we're playing until it's too late. And so that is kind of the underlying issue that I see. We've become really not so much a nation of savers like we were in the 40s and 50s. Now we're more a nation of debtors or speculators, and I believe that causes us a tremendous amount of pain, unfortunately, in this country.
Yeah, I think about the amount of education I have in my life from high school to college, and it's just I feel like I have you figure that would be a fundamental part of your education in this country. Why do you think that financial literacy is something that's just not taught?
Well, yeah, I think there's some part of me that doesn't want it to be taught from the school systems. I hope that parents keep that responsibility themselves for their children. I certainly don't think our government has a great track record of their own financial sustainability. So why
Yeah.
should they teach my kid about that? But in other ways, yes, I think if nothing else, a safety net should be some sort of basic balancing of your bank account and learning to give every dollar a job. I think the pure I guess basic responsibility of humanity is to train the next generation to function and contribute. And if we know the capitals of all 50 states, and if we know how many angels can dance on the head of a pin, and all number of other worthless bits of factoids and information from our school days, but we don't know how uh, a uh, a checking account works and what interest is when it's applied against us with credit cards, then we've done our next generation a disservice. And unfortunately, I feel like many of the things that we are taught about money are just plain lies, man. They're just lies. So the little bit of information that we teach kids, oh yeah, you can get 8% a year in the stock market. You can get 10%, 12% a year without fail in the stock market. Oh yeah, you should put your money into a 401k because taxes will definitely be lower in the future. These are things, oh, your home is an asset, put your money in your house, pay off that mortgage. These are all things that at least I was taught as a young kid, as a young adult, but maybe, just maybe they're not true. And if what you believe about money turned out not to be true, when would you want to know?
Yeah, that man, I you made some good points there. Do you want the government teaching you about money? Do you want the we are in a mess. We are in a mess. Um, and This is such a topic. When I think about affluence and wealth, I mean, it's one of the pillars that I put in the acronym. It's a Money enables your freedom of maneuver. It gives you the ability to make choices. And money is a visceral topic for a lot of people. There's a lot of negative connotation with money, but money is just a tool. But the more money that you have, the more options that you have. And here in the Do Hard Things Nation, we talk a lot about breaking free from the matrix. And I think that a critical component of that is being able to master your finances so you can break free and have the freedom to create the life that you want. Can you give us a little background about how you got involved with Not Your Average Financial Planner and what led you to become such an expert in this field?
Well, it was out of my own pain, to be quite candid with you. I graduated with $120,000 of student loan debt and no plan to pay it off. That was the worst part. It wasn't so much the number of debt dollars, it was just the not having a plan. And yeah, so my wife and I, we graduated in 2008. Great time to be looking for work, by the way, Jay, 2008.
Yeah, that was a tough
And
year.
yeah, and yet the payments, it was funny. These student loan companies like Sally Mae and the rest, they kind of wanted to be paid back. Funny,
Go
they
figure,
they should want
huh?
that. Yeah, go figure. So all of a sudden, we were under the gun to come up with a massive payment every month. We're talking way more than we probably made than we did make at the time in our small side jobs that we could scratch together in the midst of a recession. So we got desperate and interested in our financial life, and that's the one gift or benefit or blessing that came from that was the attention we gave. We call attention a form of currency around here, because what do you do with attention? You pay attention. And that's a finite, non renewable resource. We all have the same amount of time, and we each only have two eyeballs. And most of us, and we have ears that can hear, but how much attention can you truly, truly give something in your life? You really don't have that much attention to spend. So make sure that you pay attention to the right things. And so we began to pay attention to cash flow in our life. We began to pay attention to leverage in our life. And leverage and cash flow are some of the pillars of the financial freedom journey that most of us can go on. But unfortunately, cash flow works in two directions. It can flow away from us as well as it can flow toward us. And Jay, leverage works in two directions too. It sounds great. Leverage. Let's leverage our assets, right? But it can also be leveraged against us. And that's where most people start their financial life. It's so funny that high school seniors typically have a higher net worth than college graduates because of all the debt that we take on during the college years. So that's sort of where things started, and affluence, and being focused on the journey toward financial freedom was what really kept us, I guess, motivated to not just throw money at the debt, but how do we actually become better than debt free? I just don't want to live my life debt free. I know there's a lot of radio hosts that love that phrase, debt free. I'm debt free. They'll scream it on the radio, but I want to be better than debt free. And I wanted to find a way to turn my debt into real wealth. I wanted to find a way to turn the problem of my debt into the solution. And if your audience knows a lot of mixed martial arts strategies, is to take the power of the opponent and leverage it against them, to turn it around against them. Find a way to flip the script. And how do you turn the problem coming at you? In my case, it was a monthly massive debt payment and a massive amount of debt to pay off the principal. And how do I turn that into a solution where I can actually build intergenerational wealth that changes not only my life, but my entire family tree?
Yeah, that's a completely when you talk about flipping the script. So how does someone do that?
Well, it means thinking different. That's the
Yeah.
first step. So you have to, like you say, wake up from the matrix, and you have to think different about money. So the first thing I had to drop was all my preconceived notions about good places to put my money, ways to pay off debt. So the very first step for my wife and I was we had to get comfortable talking about money, which is a taboo subject for a lot of families, I realize. And in fact, we were so bad at talking about money at the beginning. She was much better than I was, but we had such trouble getting our mouths to talk um, about money that we had to do it with ice cream, and we had to do it in a public place just in case there needed to be witnesses. I mean, that's how like dicey things were there at the time, talking about
Mm.
money. And so once we kind of got focused on this thing called money, and we got a game plan for not going deeper into debt, credit cards were mounting and more, we said, all right, well, now we want to start paying down the debt. And we followed kind of your traditional plan of the debt snowball method. And for your listeners, that's where you take all of your debts, line them up, and start paying on the debts one by one. And we did that for a little while, and we got side jobs and extra jobs. But it quickly began to feel like that sugar high feeling. You know that feeling when you eat a bunch of sugar and you feel great for about 15 seconds, and then you get
Yeah.
that empty feeling, and then you crash.
Yeah.
That's sort of how it was feeling for us. We'd build up all this money in our savings account or whatever, and then we would spend it on the debt, and we'd end up with nothing left in our accounts. We'd feel happy for about 15 seconds to see that last student loan payment, and we'd get a little letter saying thank you for your payment, and that's all we'd have with these little thank you for your payment love letters from Sally Mae, and nothing earning interest for us ever again. And that was my first wake up from the matrix moment, was when I realized that every dollar I spend is gone forever, but also gone is whatever that $1 would have grown for me had I left it invested and not spent it instead.
Mhm.
And that's true when I pay off a debt. It's also true when I buy a cup of coffee. I finance everything I buy. That was the like um, bone rattling realization, was that I finance everything I buy. I'll either pay interest to borrow the money to buy my car or my vacation or my college education. I'll either pay interest for the debt, or I'll save up and pay cash and pass up interest I could have earned on the money had I left it invested and not bought it instead. So that was the big wake up moment for me, was that I finance everything I buy, that I'm truly trapped in the banking matrix. And I wanted desperately to find a third way. So that was for me kind of one of my first wake ups. Any reactions, feedback to that?
Well, I think a lot of people, I've been down that path. I think about the snowball method, and that's, you alluded to another very popular radio show host that I followed his methodology as well. And, but very much, yes, it's, you get excited initially. And that feeling you talk about, getting over that sugar high, it's exactly how it felt. And it can be a little bit frustrating, and then it can, it's I don't I yeah, I and people, I think, can get in that cycle of repeating it over and over
Hmm.
and over again.
Well, and I was a slave. I was a slave to the system. I was a slave to the banks. I was a slave to all the jobs I was doing. I mean, I had a master's degree. My wife had a bachelor's degree. We were educated. We were ready to work. We
Mhm.
were smart cookies. We were trying to get out there and get it done. But we were having to get all these extra side jobs. I had like 3 extra side jobs plus my day job. One of those jobs was working for a property management company. And I remember the very first day after my big fancy master's degree, and I felt so high and mighty and whatever, they hand me a wet dry vac. My first day on the job, here's your wet dry vac. Now get under that elevator, that busted, broken elevator. We got a big flood of, just brackish water under there with all this nasty, trash and everything. You got to clean all that out. Boy, that was a ego buster, I'll tell you, man. And I just
Yeah.
thought the whole time, I thought to myself, the reason I'm in this hole right now is because of that problem called Sally Mae. And so I wanted desperately to get debt free. But again, I wanted to become Sally Mae. I wanted to become the banker. I knew that that was the way out. And it wasn't until a friend and a mentor of mine came and visited our home in Chicago, where we lived at the time, and talked to us about how to become our own banker. And that was for me the light bulb moment, the real moment when it all clicked. The first was realizing the problem, that I financed everything I buy. Even when I pay cash for a car, I'm still under the banker's thumb, because now I have to start again on earning interest. I financed it from my future self when I pay cash for things, because a $30,000 car today is maybe $150,000 by the time you get to retirement, if you factor in what you would have earned on that money, right? So when my mentor of mine came and visited, and he sat down and he sort of described what it meant to become the banker, the kind, not an FDIC insured bank necessarily, but taking the banking function away from the banksters and literally making that a part of your internal cash flow management to become your own source of financing, to pay yourself an interest, the same
How,
interest you might have paid somebody else.
how do you do that if you're cutting Sally Mae a huge check and you're in debt? How do you do that?
Yeah. Well, you got to be living within your means for sure. So, first of all, you got to be following that cash flow system.
Mhm.
Some people call it a budget. Other people refer to it as other things, but you got to be living within your means. There cannot be more month at the end of the money. So the first step is you got to do that. And we were doing that. We were making enough. We were throwing extra toward our debts and following snowball method and all that. But again, that empty feeling was gnawing at me. So the first step is you got to live within your means. The second step is deciding where that extra cash goes. So it can either go towards the debts, which is what's known as the snowball method, or now we've referred to this and we've trademarked this. It's called the debt snow bank method. So instead of putting it into a snowball, let's put it into a snow bank. And so to kind of describe this, I have to first back up and say, okay, I'm a certified financial planner. I work with clients all over the country. We set up, full, complete financial strategies for folks, whatever their situation. And I try not to take bias toward any decisions. And I try not to um, get favorite labels, if you know what I mean. We all get these labels around our money, whether it's called a Roth IRA, or whether it's considered a rental property, or whether you call your favorite label a 0% interest credit card or an annuity, or whatever your favorite way to park money. It's all just labels to me. And my question really is not so much what do you call it? I don't care what you call your money. My question is, what does it do for you? And is it doing what you want? So most people have their money in 401ks, savings accounts, and their home equity. But is that really the best place for most people's cash? I would say no. In principle, I don't know everybody, and I'd want to look at their specific situation. But where you put your money, Jay, makes it do different things. So if your money is in a 401k, it's going to act different than if it's in a shoebox under your bed. It just, in terms of taxes and market risk, right? I hope that makes sense. So for me, I needed my money to do a couple of things. I wanted it to be safe. I wanted it to have a good competitive rate of return. I wanted access to it. Like I didn't want it tied up for 30, 40 years, right? I wanted it to give me some passive income someday. I wanted it to be private and off the radar of, corporations and governments. I wanted it to be private, right? Not
Wow, that
not
sounds like, I
exposed
mean,
to.
that list sounds amazing, and I'm interested to hear more, but I'm really fascinated to hear, like, how do you do all of those things?
Yeah, yeah, and is it legal? And
Is
how
illegal, yeah.
many attorneys do you need to write it up for you? And yeah, well, okay, so I lay all that out to sort of say, all right, as a certified financial planner, I was not looking at life insurance of all things to do any of that. But as it happens, man, I can't find anything else that acts like a bank or does everything I just described in a better way, more efficient way. It grows on a guaranteed basis. Cash value whole life insurance grows on a guaranteed every single year basis. All right. Doesn't matter what the stock market's doing. All of my policies are on a guaranteed growth trajectory every single year. That's pretty cool. I can get access to the cash, not the death benefit. That's for my family someday. But if it's cash value life insurance, you get access to big buckets of money in the policy. Even in the first few months of the policy, you've got liquid capital that you can draw on and use. And there's no restrictions for what you use the money for. So I could use it to buy a car, fix up my kitchen, or in my case, pay off all my student loan debt. All right. So it also creates for me another stream of income. And if we design the policies correctly, that's a retirement income that's totally income tax free. Tax law says we can get the money out of those things tax free, but there's no restrictions like there is with Roth IRAs and so forth. So I like that there's no taxes due on the money. And then the last thing, and then I'll hush and get your feedback on this, Jay, is I could use that capital as collateral for policy loans from the insurance company. So this is known as a policy loan. And if I had, let's say, $50,000 in cash in one of these policies, let's say I've got 50 grand. And let's say I want to buy a $30,000 vehicle. So I borrow from my life insurance. I pay cash at the dealership for the car. But that year and for all of the years that my loan is outstanding, my policy will continue to compound and grow on the entire $50,000, even the 30 grand in there that I had borrowed against. So I've got my car and I've still got the compound growth on all of my cash value, like I never took the loan out. To me, this solved the problem of financing everything I buy, because now I'm not sacrificing my future self to get that car today. I still get the growth on my policy. I still get the guaranteed growth on my cash value, and I get to drive my car around town. Or in my case, at first, it was to pay off my student loans. I got to pay off my debts and yet didn't sacrifice my future returns and my retirement all along the way. I was better than debt free.
Interesting. I have there are some myths when it comes to whole life insurance. And I guess I'd like to say this, like there are a lot of different methodologies with your finances, with your health and wellness, with every aspect of your life. And what I appreciate about this topic is that we've had different financial advisors come on the show, and they basically outlined different methodologies. And I know that there are other financial advisors out there that would say that whole life is not good. I've seen that a lot. So, what are some common myths from your perspective that you tend to face, and what is your argument for life or whole life?
Well, I'm certainly in the camp, especially when I first heard about this. When I first heard about dividend paying whole life insurance, all I could hear was Mr. Ramsey's voice ringing in my ears, and my eyebrows furrowed, and I crossed my arms, and I was very much skeptical of what my mentor and friend was saying. He was just a college professor of mine. He had no skin in the game. He wasn't trying to sell me anything. But all I had ever heard was what, radio hosts had said about whole life insurance. And so I had to do some due diligence myself. And again, as a fiduciary and a certified financial planner, I don't just rush into this tool. It's not like a one size fits all. Not everyone should just drop everything and go get one of these. However, I can't look away from it either. I mean, if it's even half true, that's a pretty cool financial tool to do everything we've just been describing. So maybe it's worth at least exploring that. So that's what I did. I spent a good chunk of a year really digging into this. Most people, the myth to your question, the myths that most people have are related to old fashioned whole life insurance, the kind that used to be sold 60, 70, 80 years ago. In fact, I haven't seen a policy designed the way Mr. Ramsey talks about in probably 40 years, issued in the last 40 years. So if he's still talking about it, then he's using, slide data from decades ago. But even more to the point, most whole life insurance is not designed the way you and I are describing right now. Most whole life insurance is sold by insurance agents that get big commissions. I will tell you, there's a reason why even the old-fashioned whole life insurance doesn't pay a whole lot over 30 years. Let's say if you compared that to buying an index fund and paying an advisor like 1% a year, like a Wall Street advisor, the Wall Street advisor will get paid roughly 10 times as much as, say, an insurance agent. It's why the movie was called The Wolf of Wall Street, not The Wolf of Insurance, because there's way more money in Wall Street. Okay. So if we could be talking about anything other than life insurance, I would be right now. But again, the commissions on bank on yourself designed whole life insurance are cut. Even when you compare it to old fashioned whole life, the commissions of bank on yourself policies are cut about 50 to 70%. And Jay, this allows the cash in the policy to build up a lot faster because the money is going not to the agent, but it's going to your cash value instead. I like that. I want to have cash value building quickly so I can begin using that cash even in the first few months of the policy. As far as other myths, I think many people just viewed it as a very expensive term insurance policy. And yes, the premiums, the money that you put into the policy is called a premium. It will be a larger amount than a term insurance policy. But think about it for a minute. When you buy a term insurance policy, you're renting the death benefit for like 10 years, 5 years, 20 years. So you're much less likely to die in that period of time than you are over your entire life. So you can rent something for 10, 20 years and never benefit from it. That's pure cost in my book. and then the landlord will raise the rent on you. Just like when you rent an apartment, the term insurance that you're renting gets more expensive as you get older, and you're building no equity in the term insurance policies that you're renting. Contrast that with whole life insurance. If it's specially designed the bank on yourself way, yeah, you can start building equity right from the start, and it lasts your whole life. Forgive the pun there, but you're building up wealth, like true contractual guaranteed wealth, not paper wealth like you see on Wall Street, but true contractual baked in guaranteed wealth that you can rely on. I mean, imagine that. You can actually know when you're 62 or 65 or 70 or whatever, you can know what your net worth is going to be. Like, we can start to build a plan around that, right? I mean, can we really call it a plan in Wall Street if we don't even know what we're going to be worth when it's time to tap into the money? So anyway, I'm off my soapbox there, but you're right, man. There is a lot of bias out there. I think rightfully so. Old-fashioned whole life, I wouldn't be touching with a 10-foot pole. But these more modern forms, I find to be very compelling.
Well, this could be a bad analogy, but I think about like the health and wellness like realm. It's like people like absolutely love the ketogenic diet or they absolutely despise it for whatever reason. But all of these things, they work for some people, they don't work for others. You just pick and choose what works for you. And I think that
Mhm.
this is a vehicle that you can use and an option. And it sounds like for you, this is your specialty. Can you describe how you utilized whole life to get out of the situation that you were in?
Yeah, and just to be clear, it's not all we do. We are a full financial firm, but I do think that not enough people have liquid, guaranteed capital in their balance sheet. Most people have $1,000 in their savings account, and everything else is locked away in their house or their 401k. Can you imagine how much debt people have to go into and how much interest they're losing and how much they have to get in rate of return in their 401k just to keep up with the credit card payments that they're having to come up with or their kids' parent plus loans? So liquidity has a return on it that I think is oftentimes overlooked. The value of liquidity, meaning the value of accessing a big pile of money, is oftentimes looked down upon by your typical investment guru or oh so average financial advisor. But I'm not your average financial planner. So I see the value of liquidity, man. And let's say that there's a great real estate deal that comes on the market this month, right? As markets are sort of softening in most areas around the country, there's going to be some deals that finally start to open up again. Well, banks are going to stop lending in bad economic times. They tend to like to only lend us money when we don't need it. And so it's going to be the people sitting on a big pile of money that are able to take advantage of investment opportunities. So for me, that's going to be when, again, liquidity makes a big difference in terms of your ROI, your rate, return on investment. Okay, so back to your comment. Yeah, I've used my policy personally to help me get past that massive amount of student loan debt. We bought back our debt one by one. We did the snow bank method, meaning we paid the minimum on all our debts. And instead of throwing extra on the smallest debt, that's the snowball method. Instead, we did the snow bank method where we funded a whole life policy, a couple whole life policies actually, with all the extra money that we were otherwise going to send to the debts. So we overfunded those policies, just slamming as much as we could into those policies. Minimal commissions, minimal expenses, cut the death benefits as small as we can get them, flood those policies with cash. And as our debts come down, our cash value builds up. And at some point, we'd borrow from the policy and wipe out an account. But the policy would continue to compound and grow like we hadn't taken the loan.
Mm.
And then we'd repay our loan to the policy that we own at whatever pace we wish. See, the loans on these policies are non recourse. That's a fancy way of saying you get to control how you repay the loan. So my wife and I, we would pay off the loan at a certain pace. We'd skip a few months if we were in a tight financial week or month. We'd pay extra when we had a good month or two. But ultimately and eventually, we wiped out all the student loan debt. And then we ultimately wiped out all the debt to ourselves. We bought back the debt first, and then we paid off those loans to the policies we owned. That was the first way we used the policies. But what's so interesting, Jay, is all along the way, while we were paying off the debt, we used it to do other things too. We had a medical emergency. We got to use the policy for that. We used it for a month-long trip to Hawaii. And that was really cool because, like, man, while we were on the beaches in Hawaii, we got a letter saying we got the dividends for one of our policies we had borrowed from, and the dividends on that policy were identical to what they would have been had we not gone on that trip. So that's like a no guilt vacation right there. And we've used them to buy cars. We used it for real estate investing. We've used it for the down payment on our house. We've used it to invest in our business. Who knows what we'll do next? It's just a ever increasing bucket of cash that's sort of helped us get a financial flywheel going, not just for my wife and I, but now for our daughter and our grandchildren and beyond.
What kind of rates of return can someone expect going into a whole life insurance plan?
I would always say it's not an investment. So you're never going to be thrilled with double digit returns. It's middle single digits. Jay, is pretty common. Over time, you're going to see somewhere in the 4, 5, 6% range. Now, that is a tax free return. So let's be clear, what would a 401k have to do to keep up with 5 whatever percent? Depending on your tax bracket, you might be needing to get 8, 9%. And that's uninterrupted with no volatility too. So a 401k to do what 5% straight line going up and to the right, like a whole life policy, a market-based brokerage account or 401k, when you've got volatility, you got to catch up some months and some years when the markets crash, and you got to make up for it in good years. So I've never considered this an investment. It's more of a cash alternative. You might think of it almost like an alternative to your savings accounts or your CDs or your money markets because it's safe and it's got that guarantee built in.
Yeah. Okay. So what makes it appealing then is the the tax laws around it, and then it's just steady. It's just steady. And I like the idea, like if you borrow from it, like there's really no penalties, there's no stipulations or anything like that. That does make it the light bulb kind of came on when you said that, because I'm like, that's interesting, because I don't know of anything that you could take out where you're not getting penalized, or there's not some kind of really strict method to pay it back, or some type of tax
Yeah.
implication.
To me, it beats paying cash because, if I've got a choice between buying a car with cash or using my policy, I'll use the policy because when I pay cash for something, I lose all that compound interest that I could have earned on that 30 grand.
Mhm.
When I borrow against my policy, sure, I've got a loan to pay back, but it's on my terms. And I was going to have to save for the next car anyway. When you buy a car with cash, you got to save up for the next car. So this is me just saving up for my next car as I repay that policy loan. That's the way I view it. And you're right, man. It's also, I want to just quickly mention, there are insurance costs. So don't just rush out and put all your money into this, because you will have some insurance expenses. Even the best designed policies come with expenses. It's I could get into examples and specifics if you want, Jay, but I don't want to bore your audience. You're going to lose somewhere between 25 and 30% of your first year contribution. So if you put in 10 grand, you might have somewhere around 6,500 to 8,000 bucks in liquid cash in the first year. Why? Because you bought a death benefit of whatever it was, 300 grand or whatever. Now that's in the first year. By the third, fourth, fifth year, now you're putting in 10 grand again each year. In my specific example here, of course, you could put in less or more if you want to. We've got folks putting in half as much. We've got folks putting in 10 times as much. But the less or the more you put in, the somewhere around year 3 or year 4, the cash begins to grow faster than you are contributing to it. And at that point, you know that the thing is really beginning to pick up steam. So don't do this for get rich quick. I guess that's the
Yeah.
moral of that story. Again, it kind of goes back to, like our friend Homer Simpson. You don't want to just do this for, the feel goods right now. You'll be disappointed. But if you
Yeah.
see this as a long-term financial strategy, boy, it gets more and more efficient every year. At certain
Yeah.
points, you'll open it up and it's doing 2x, 3x, 5x what you're putting into it.
Yeah, that's definitely it's definitely interesting, and I'm glad that this isn't a get rich quick, because the things that are stable, it takes some time, it takes some discipline, it takes, but this could be an option for a lot of people that are out there.
Now you got to do hard things. You got to embrace the suck. I'm comfortable with doing hard things by setting aside the patience that comes with starting a new policy, just like I have patience to get a new real estate property, or the patience to start a business, or the patience to work out. Nobody goes to the gym and walks out with with a six pack. And you got to do those hard things. And by doing that, you reap great reward.
Absolutely. So you mentioned I've got your list of topics that you talk about, and you said one here that stands out. If you could create the perfect financial strategy for life, what would that look like? So someone walks into your office and like, hey, I've got debts. I got $1,000 in my bank, and I'm just tired of living this way. I'm 40 and I want to retire in 20 years. Does this strategy work for someone in that position? Is it too late for them?
It's a great starting question. In fact, if folks take nothing else from this episode, Jay, I'd recommend folks grab a legal pad or something to write with and just start making that list. What would a perfect financial vehicle look like to you? Take the labels off. Don't focus on names. Don't focus on particular ticker symbols on stocks or 401k or IRA or self-directed solo 401ks. Don't pay any attention to the names of the money. Just think about the function of the money, and start writing down your characteristics. I gave you a few earlier there, Jay. I said competitive rate of return, safe, available, liquid, accessible cash, tax advantage or even tax free income in retirement, private and out of the reach of lawsuits and government and probate when I pass away. That was my short list I started creating for myself as I was looking at my own financial life. I'm just out of curiosity, Jay, what would you add if you were Pope of money for a day? What sort of things would you want your money doing for you?
I would want it to be making me money every day. The constant return. I want to pay less taxes.
Yep.
So those are two big things that come to mind for me.
Yep. Yep. It's been kind of heartbreaking to hear people call me when they're brand new and never met him before. And they bring me, like, literally today, I'll be talking with a young couple and they've lost 25% of their net worth just in the last quarter, in the last 90
Yeah.
days. And it's even worse when you look over the year to date return because the markets have been so miserable this year. But thank goodness I didn't have anything to do with that. I didn't have to give them that bad news. When I was working for a CPA before I started my business, I had to hear those calls. The CPA, I worked for her, helping her get tax returns ready and all that. But I would hear her make those calls. I'm sorry, Mr. Client, but I just lost you half your life savings. You're 63 and I lost you half your life savings. Goodness.
Yeah.
So yeah, the always hitting an all-time record high in your net worth. That sounds pretty cool, man. I'll take that. Cheers to that.
I know there's a lot of people that have been putting a lot of money in cryptocurrency. And when that tanked earlier this year, there's a lot of people that I read a lot of people committed suicide. It was,
Wow.
they made a lot of money rapidly, and they overnight they lost it like that.
The
And
Journal of American Medical Association did a recent report saying that a wealth shock, if you lose somewhere around 100 grand, is the magic number on their study that they did. If that happens, if you lose 100 grand in the markets or home values drop or whatever, you have a 25% higher likelihood of dying early just because of that. And typically, they'll see an increase in heart attacks at the hospitals the days after just a modest drop in the stock market. So why should that have anything to do with our health, right? Why should somebody sneezing the wrong way on Wall Street or somebody not buying a Bitcoin, right? Why should that
yeah,
have anything to do with the quality or the longevity of our life? I believe that our financial wealth is tied up with our physical health. And boy, what if we could not lose either of them? Where is it written that we have to endure this kind of financial abuse? I mean, to hear about certain stories, it's heartbreaking, but I'm glad to say we have no part of it at our firm.
yeah. I think about a lot of people have money tied up like in Tesla. If Elon Musk has a bad day, or I don't know. I know California. They want people to have electric cars by 2035, but now they're having all the Teslas out there. They're basically saying, "Hey, don't plug your Teslas in right now." Those are things way beyond your control, and that could,
Right.
I don't want to wake up because of a news event or something beyond my control that's going to tank my personal wealth, and that's scary. That's really
Mhm.
scary, and it affects a lot of people.
Yeah, the core element we're referring to is control, and I find that a lot of people I love to work with, they understand that some things in life are just outside of our control. There's certain things you cannot control, And I believe we can influence more than we think we can. However, we may not be able to control as much as we'd like, but we can influence more than we think we can. And I love working with people who see themselves not as thermometers, but more like thermostats, where they're able to change the environment in which they live. I've got a little fish. We've got two little fish, and my daughter and I will help clean the tanks, and we'll feed them every day, and we'll make sure the right temperature, water, and all this. And I got to thinking about how um, banks control the environment in our fish tank, in our matrix. They are the ones that control the environment in which we live. Airplanes fly through an environment, ships flow through a water environment, and our money is all around us. And if we let somebody else control the environment in which our money lives, they're going to win. Okay. We are under their thumb. We have to kiss the ring just to get access to money. And guess what? Mark Twain said it best: a banker is a fellow who will lend you his umbrella when the sun shines, but wants it back as soon as it starts to rain. I don't want that for my life. I don't want to have that kind of experience. I don't want Wall Street to tell me if I'm having a good life or a bad life. So yeah, build something. Back to your question, figure out what you want your money doing for you, and then go find tools and labels that help you accomplish that goal.
I love that. Simple. I like the simple exercise of like, what do you want put the labels aside. What do you want it to do for you? And then find the vehicle that will do that. I love that. We talked earlier about before we hopped on the show about climbing mountains, right? And what is when it comes to our wealth and climbing up the mountain and coming back down, what does that mean to you?
Most also average financial advisors are all too interested in helping you accumulate assets to climb up a mountain. I want to tell you a quick story. My wife and I, we met in Texas, but we fell in love in Japan, and we got to know each other really well climbing Mount Fuji one day. And going up the mountain was truly remarkable, very difficult, an amazing exercise. But Jay, coming down the mountain was like, it was terrifying. I thought I was going to die. I thought, this is it. I'm falling off the edge. I'm going down. I didn't think I'd make it. And that surprised me. And come to find out, according to National Geographic, 90% of deaths on Mount Everest are not ascending the mountain. They are coming back down the mountain. And there's lots of reasons for why that might be.
You know what? So Lacey and I, we climbed the Middle Teton last year, and that was the one thing that surprised me. It was an adventure getting to the top. We saw the top; it was beautiful, and it was kind of treacherous getting up there, but it was coming down the mountain. We didn't realize how long it was going to take. We didn't realize how steep it was, and that's really where we encountered some pretty terrifying scenarios. And we'd already expended a lot of energy, right? So, yes, coming down the mountain is incredibly dangerous.
Most people's financial advisor, he or she is paid to help you go up. He is not paid to help you come back down. They literally have a fee model called assets under management. And so this is essentially, they get paid more the higher up the mountain you go. And as you come down the mountain, i.e., you're spending on groceries and grandkids in your retirement years, how motivated are they going to be to help you or return your calls? I don't believe the flag should be planted at the summit. I believe if you want to successfully climb a mountain, you got to go up and you got to plant your flag way back down at base camp. Or Jay, even better, hand that flag off to the next generation so that they can go back up themselves. So, as you talk about going up and then coming back down, it is a very different mindset, heart set, skill set to go back down your retirement mountain because nobody knows what the market's going to do when you're 82 years old or even 62 years old or even 16 minutes from now. And so the problem is, as you take money out of your retirement accounts, if the market should also tank like it's kind of doing this year, that's a double pain. And it will never recover from something like that. It enters into a death spiral from which it never recovers. And so, unfortunately, that's something known as systematic withdrawal rate risk or a return risk. It's the order in which you receive the market returns in retirement. And that can blow up your retirement and leave you at 79 or 81 years old saying, welcome to Walmart. I don't want that for my clients. So coming back down the mountain is something we specialize in helping our clients achieve.
Hmm, interesting. No, I appreciate you sharing that, and I think I love the visual, love the analogy of that. So we only have a few minutes left because you've got another obligation after this. I'll leave the mic open to you. What did you want to cover today that we haven't talked about?
I think, just again, the belief system that, hey, we got to just hand off our money to somebody else, let somebody else be our money guru, I think is part of our problem. And I think part of the solution is to realize that we can control our own environment in which our money lives. So yeah, if you believe you are simply a tennis ball floating down the gutter of life, we're probably not a good fit. But if you, like Jay and like a lot of the Do Hard Things Nation, believe that you can control your environment and want a better future, man, that inspires me. That's what I get so thrilled doing each morning, each day as I meet with clients. When I get to see people saying, all right, you know what, Mark, I'm going to take down that 8-unit apartment building. Or, hey, I'm going to pay off my last credit card. Or, hey, I'm going to help my kid go to college when I didn't think I could before. That gets me the goosebumps, man. And it helps me realize that, wow, we may not be able to control everything in life. There's going to be curveballs, but we can influence more than we think we can, and hopefully for the better.
Yeah. Well, money won't buy you happiness, but it does give you a lot of options. And we do have relational issues with money, as you alluded to, that when things happen to it, it causes a lot of health issues and things like that. And we really need to, the more educated we can be, the more of it that we can make and protect, and it gives us more options. And you're a great resource for that. So, how can people get in contact with you if they want to learn more about how to work with you?
Well, yeah, thank you. If you'd like to not only climb up the mountain, but also safely get back down and pass the flag off to the next generation, or if you're just wanting to find a better way to pay off your debts, I can help. Love to sit down and chat. We've got a website specifically designed for our conversation. It's called kickstartwithmark.com, kickstartwithmark.com. And we can do a 15-minute quick introductory call. I can see if this strategy that we've talked about with Jay today or any other strategy would be a good fit. But that's kickstartwithmark.com to reach out.
No, I appreciate you taking the time today. Like I said, it's one of the pillars of the core four of what we talk about. One of the main lines of effort in our life, and this is something that if you creating affluence and wealth gives you freedom, freedom of having more options, and it can ultimately leave you a legacy to your kids and family, and be able to give and serve and help make this world a better place. So thank you for taking the time to talk about these strategies, and yeah, I'll put all your contact information in the show notes. If people want to get in contact with you, they can reach out.
And one more plug for Jay's 5-star review. Give him that thumbs up, guys. Give him the 5 stars. Write a review. It makes a big difference for subscribers and more. He does a great job on his show. So thank you, Jay, for having me on.
Yeah, appreciate it. Makes a huge difference. So please, yeah, listen to Mark's advice. We appreciate you. So if you're listening out there, you need some financial help, reach out to Mark. And for the rest of you out there, if you're ready to take your life to the next level, you're ready to level up, you want to perform at a higher level, you want to overcome overwhelm, you want to punch fear in the face, you have a big goal out there that you want to achieve, well, consider reaching out to myself. And we got the community, the goal crushing community, the Forge Mastermind. And you can reach out to me. We'd love to have a conversation about that. So in the meantime, keep doing hard things. We will see you guys in the next episode. Thank you for listening to today's episode of the podcast. If you like this podcast, be sure to subscribe so you're notified of future episodes. I would also love to know, what is your takeaway? What insight did you get from today's episode? You can screenshot this, send it to me on social, post it on social, tag me. And when you share like that, someone else out there may need to hear this message today. Only 10% of people are engaged in personal growth and development. And there could be a nugget here that could put someone on a positive trajectory. So feel free to share that, tag me in it, send me a direct message, send me an email, let me know what your thoughts are. And you can connect with me on all social media. You can send me an email at j@jteagues.com. Take a moment, leave a review on iTunes. No matter if you're listening to Spotify or any other platform, like iTunes, I guess, is the gold standard for reviews, and it really goes a long way for the algorithm for people searching for personal growth and development, and it helps us go a long way. It means a lot to me that you took a couple minutes to do them. I read through all of them, and it just feels good knowing that that this show is impactful. So if you gain any value, it just has that you do that. If you want to level up, you want to take the next step in your personal growth and development, you can go to jtiegs.com, JAYTIEGS.com. We got a variety of options. We got one-on-one coaching, high performance coaching through the High Performance Institute, certified high performance coach. We've got a few different curriculums that I take people through. I also do group coaching. If you have an organization that needs a speaker, or you want a live workshop, I can come in and deliver some training to you and your organization. We also have the exclusive Forge Mastermind group that is an elite community of like-minded people that are growing together. And we have a weekly call there, and we're going to be rolling out new content for that. And then also we got apparel. So we've got to go to DoHardThingsApparel.com. Get you a Do Hard Things shirt. Show the world that you do hard things. We got hoodies over there. We got hats. We got stickers. We got patches. A variety of different things, and we got a variety of different models coming out. So you can show the world that you do hard things, and you can go over there and support us that way. That'd be great. So in the meantime, thank you so much for listening. Keep doing hard things. We'll see you guys in the next episode.